retirements, cash-ins, Money in the Bank winners, champions pinned. A lot went on last night on Money in the Bank, for good or bad is for you to decide. However, we're going to talk through that on the show right now. We'll talk the cash-ins first, or the winners of the Money in the Bank ladder matches first. I will start with the women's. The men's one's slightly more complicated. We'll get to that in a minute. But Tiffany Stratton won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. It was a great outing for the women in that. You do have to say, though, that the MVP in that match was definitely Chelsea Green. She had a great outing, and albeit a very abrupt ending after getting chucked off the ladder through two tables. But as I mentioned on the show last week, I did think that the Money in the Bank would come down to Chelsea or Tiffany, and kind of that's how it is. That's how it ended. It was up to Chelsea or Tiffany. Chelsea was climbing the ladder to get to the titles. Tiffany decided to climb up the other ladder, push her off through two tables, and grab the briefcase, which means going forward, Tiffany has the briefcase that she can cash in at any time. And it kind of pays into the story very well on SmackDown, because as you know, Bayley is currently the SmackDown Women's Champion, and she will be at least until SummerSlam when she goes against Nia Jax. Now, Nia Jax currently is taking Tiffany Stratton under her wing. So you would think that at SummerSlam is the ideal time for Tiffany to cash in. Nia's got Bayley. Regardless of who wins that match, you would expect Tiffany could do a sneaky cash in on Nia, or Bayley could easily, well, could beat Nia quite easily, and then Nia could attack Bayley afterwards, or she could injure Bayley during the match, which could then set up the Tiffany Stratton cash in quite well. And Tiffany then could come and cash in at that point. And it's a feasible cash in, I think, at that point. It's kind of the one that makes logical sense, because Bayley is going against Nia Jax, and the story would go in quite well. But whether or not that will happen or not is up for debate right now, and we will see at SummerSlam in just 3 or 4 weeks' time, when they go into SummerSlam, how that affects the women's title match. I don't think Tiffany will go after the Raw one. I think that's pretty much still going to be Liv's. Don't know what's going to happen with Liv yet, whether Rhea be back in time for SummerSlam or not. But Tiffany Stratton missed Money in the Bank. She says she's going to glam it up a little bit. It's going to be got a fit in. It's going to be pink. It's going to have a strap. It'll probably be like a Louis Vuitton style Money in the Bank briefcase or bag in this one. But in terms of the rest of the competitors in that, Chelsea Green, as we mentioned, had a great outing. And I think in that match was definitely proving ground for her. A lot of her good work was done in TNA, and she was kind of in WWE when she was first in the WWE. It didn't work out for whatever reason. She ended up getting released. I know she had a lot of injuries during that time. However, the second spell in the WWE is a lot better. And I think in that match, if she had any issues or any doubters within the WWE creative or anywhere like that, they were proved absolutely wrong. And she is a star, an absolute star. And perhaps next year, Chelsea could win Money in the Bank. But I do see her as women's champion. However, that being said, there has been some more fuel to the fire that the women's division may soon be getting a women's Intercontinental Champion and a women's United States Championship, which will be on Raw and SmackDown, respectively. And that is an ideal way of beginning a Chelsea Green revolution, or whatever you want to call it, by giving her at least, I suppose it would be the US if they follow the brands. It could be that Chelsea Green has the US Championship come SmackDown at some point. When that does happen, I think that's a great idea. I think the women's division needs it. It's a difficult one, because if you've got, like, a lot of women on the roster that are very good and very talented, and they've only got one title per brand to go for, it's difficult for them to get their opportunity. So to have two titles on both brands, the main and sort of the women's world and the IC or the US, it gives that more of an appetite for those women's division. It gives more championships. It gives people more chance to prove themselves, and the women more chance to prove themselves as a champion. And that, for me, works perfectly well. But in my opinion, Tiffany Stratton cashes in at SummerSlam in just 3 or 4 weeks' time, and she will become women's champion. I do think it'll be a successful cash in, probably because we're going to get into something in a minute as well. But I do think she's going to cash in. I think it'll be on Bayley, and I think she walks out of SummerSlam Women's World Champion. Let's get to the men's one, shall we? Um, I did say, or again, I said last week that I felt as if Drew was going to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it would possibly be out of him and Jey Uso. Again, it was exactly that. Drew did win the Money in the Bank, and he gave an indication on the pre-show that if he won Money in the Bank, he would be cashing the contract in that night. And when Drew did win Money in the Bank, and I did kind of think it was a little bit where it was a bit obvious when this match, considering the men's Money in the Bank ladder match started the show. I did kind of had an inkling even then, although I'd already had Drew definitely in there as a Money in the Bank winner. When it kicked off the show, it just basically made it more prevalent for me that Drew was going to win the match and cash it in that night. And that's exactly what happened. He did win the match. And we're going to get straight into the world title match now. He did indeed cash the shot in. About 3/4 of the way through Seth Rollins and Damian Priest. Before we get there, though, we do have to mention there was a bit of an issue in the Seth Damian Priest match. I think Damian may have been slightly concussed or something at one point. Seth hit a Falcon Arrow into the pin. The referee actually stopped his hand going down for the 3 count, expecting a kick out or maybe expecting McIntyre's music to hit. I'm not sure where the miscommunication was there. But for all intents and purposes, from what been told, that Damien was meant to kick out. He failed to kick out, and the referee should have counted the 3rd hand. The biggest problem with that is the other 2 stipulations in the match. The stipulations were if Seth Rollins beats Damian Priest has to leave the Judgment Day. And if Damian Priest beats Seth Rollins can't challenge for the championship while Damian is champion. So that kind of missed part in that match would have had disastrous consequences had the ref's hand gone down again. Triple H did mention it on the post-show conference as well, just saying that, he was kind of mistakes happen. He's been a part of it once. He just wants to turn Damian Priest's phone off and just let him think about all the good stuff that's happened and how he's a top tier talent, which of course he is. And mistakes do happen. He may have forgot his cue. He may have taken a stinger to the head because Seth was basically counted one of his suplexes with a couple of knees to the head, hit a Falcon Arrow, and that should have been a kick out at 2.8, and he didn't put the kick out, but the ref's hand also didn't go down for 3. So that was part of it. Then Drew comes out and cashes in. So he was mimicking Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. If you remember, Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank against Brock and Roman partway through their match at WrestleMania that year, which Seth went on to win. So Drew cashes in his contract halfway or partway through this match, putting in a triple threat, hits a few claymores, goes to win the match, and is attacked by CM Punk. CM Punk hits him with chairs, chokes him with cables, hits him with the title. Damian Priest hits South of Heaven and wins and retains the title, and thus Seth Rollins cannot go for the championship while Damian Priest is champion. There has been a lot of people online that have criticized the booking out of it, saying that basically it was a waste of a cash-in. He could have cost Drew McIntyre the ladder match, which would have probably been the right thing. However, if you go into the details of this, and I'll tell you why I think it makes perfect sense. He wanted to get Drew McIntyre back for attacking him in Chicago. He's already stated before that the World Championship he doesn't care about the World Championship when he fights Drew McIntyre. It's just going to be a fight. But also, if you remember, Seth Rollins was the other man that was heavily critical of CM Punk's return. So what better way for Punk to actually get them both when they could have won championships? It was ideal, and it was actually good booking. And I think people need to look at the bigger picture. Yes, I get it. It's a fouled cash in, and you can argue it is a waste of a cash in. But for me, I personally believe it was a great idea because you've still got the Seth. I mean, Punk and McIntyre is probably going to happen at SummerSlam now. If not, assuming Punk will be cleared in time, it will happen there. But you've also got the longer feud down the line of Punk and Seth Rollins. And what better way to keep that cooking in the background than to have Punk cost Seth an opportunity now, where as long as Damian Priest is champion, he can't go for the title. It's great. But could they even do a triple threat match between both of those guys at SummerSlam? Potentially. But Damian Priest will go one-on-one with the ring general Gunter at SummerSlam. And in my opinion, Seth Rollins won't have to wait very long because I believe that at SummerSlam in 3 or 4 weeks' time, Gunter will dethrone Damian Priest and become the new world's heavyweight champion. Thus, Seth gets be able to be back into the title picture. However, I believe that the title pit he will probably be concentrating on Punk at that point. We do have Bad Blood coming up in October, and I think it could either be another match with Drew then, or Seth Rollins against CM Punk in October at Bad Blood, following the match with Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. That could be the way they go. So, in my view, it wasn't as bad booking as people have been saying this, but I do understand the wasted cash in point. But long term and thinking about the storylines for both of them, it made perfect sense. Now, we're going to get into the 6-man tag match here. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens against the Bloodline. It was great. We're talking about MVPs throughout the show. Jacob Fatu was the MVP of this match. It was his first match in WWE. He was an absolute star. He took that draping DDT straight away from Randy Orton, popped straight back up, which gives you an insight to what Jacob is going to be in this. Now, again, on the review this week, I did say that my belief was that Solo Sikoa would pin Cody Rhodes in this match to set up the match at SummerSlam and the potential return of the quote unquote real tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Again, that is exactly what happened. Solo did pin Cody Rhodes after the Samoan spike, and yes, there was a little bit of a, I don't like to use the word botch. Chris Jericho hates the word botch, but there was a little miss spot, shall we say, with Tanga Loa. He was trying to low blow Kevin Owens. He missed the second time. He got him, but he also punched Tama Tonga in the head at the same point. So, again, it wasn't without fault, but Solo Sikoa did pin Cody Rhodes. And again, long-term booking wise, it's logical. Why would you give Solo Sikoa an opportunity against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam? Well, now he's got it. Now he's got the reason. He's pinned him. He's also been I think it's 3 out of 4 losses that Cody Rhodes has had in the WWE. He's played a part of. So it makes logical sense for Solo Sikoa to now go after Cody Rhodes, but he needed the win to really do that. He needed to pin Cody to get the opportunity, in my opinion. And now he's gone and done that. Makes perfect sense that Solo is now #1 contender. Maybe they'll do a #1 contenders match on SmackDown. I don't know what they're going to do this week, but the belief is that it makes logical sense now for Solo to take on Cody. Where does Roman Reigns fit into this? Does he fit into it? Does he even come back at SummerSlam? We don't know, but it won't be long before the real tribal chief returns to reclaim the status of tribal chief from Solo. And when he does, it's going to be a whole new innings of the bloodline. If you remember, Paul Heyman rightfully said way back when that they were in about innings 4 or 5 before WrestleMania 40. Well, another innings is just about to start. There was rumors that Jimmy Uso actually was going to return at Money in the Bank. That did not happen yet, anyway. But I think he's been advertised for this week's SummerSlam, this week's SmackDown. So he may well be returning this week. His return is imminent from what we know. So it'd be great to see him. Roman's got to come back. Is Jey Uso going to be a part of this? Obviously, he didn't win the Money in the Bank. Interestingly enough, also, just going back to the men's one, the Wyatt Six did not get involved in Chad Gable's Money in the Bank match at all. So that will probably start on Raw as well. But it'll be interesting to see Solo, Cody looking like it's going to happen. at SummerSlam and the potential return of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Before we get into the last point of Money in the Bank show, we need to just go back to the after show where Drew McIntyre, we'd mentioned earlier on that CM Punk cost him the title. He went ballistic at the after show. He was being held back by refs. He threw them away, elbowed Raw general manager Adam Pearce in the face. Wade Barrett had to make sure Drew went away. There was a quote on Twitter from Adam Pearce saying Jackie Redmond, who was doing the post-show stuff, feared for her life. You know where that's going. But and the consequences will be to be made. So he's got to decide on the consequences. So again, we have to tune in on Raw to find out what those consequences are. But nevertheless, Drew McIntyre again is not a happy bunny. He did actually come out on the post show when he was screaming at the camera saying to CM Punk, he knows where he lives. Now, I don't know if we're going to get some form of interaction when he breaks into his home. That I don't know. But however, Raw should be must watch this week purely for that alone. It is a shame that there isn't a men's Money in the Bank to cash in, but like I said before, makes logical storyline sense and does keep two feuds cooking for CM Punk for when he is cleared, which we believe to be at SummerSlam. Now, the retirement line of things now on Money in the Bank. We was surprised that Trish was going to be there as well. She was hosting the event and she welcomed us to John Cena. John Cena come out on, and he was quite weird. The shirt had like for the last time it's now, and all of this sort of stuff. And he come out and basically confirmed that he is retired or retiring from WWE. However, that retirement will be December 2025. He's going to be doing this year's Royal Rumble will be his last. So Royal Rumble 2025 will be his last. The Elimination Chamber this year will be his last. And WrestleMania 41 will be his last WrestleMania that he is competing in. Didn't say that, so just remember he's competing. A lot of people took that as that was going to be his last match. He clarified comments in the post show to say that he'd be doing 30 to 40 dates next year, and that then he will be done as an active competitor. But he wanted to be sort of certain to say that he's going to be doing stuff potentially with WWE backstage and or maybe producer or sort of helped in the performance center every now and again once his movie schedule allows him to. But nevertheless, John Cena retiring from WWE in 2025. Love him or hate him. I've done both. I liked him. I booed him. I went through all that emotions. The one thing, and it's the one thing that John Cena also says as well in this is respect. And you have to respect everything that man has done over the last 20 odd years. He has given us literally everything that he's had. And what I do hope, though, and I really do hope that they do, is I hope they give John the 17th title reign so that he is then, no arguments, the greatest of all time. That's what I hope they do. We will see in 2025. He's also going to be on the first Raw on Netflix, by the way, by the sounds of it. He's made a point about saying that as well. So John Cena next year, hopefully he comes over here in the UK and we can give him a send off. I know that he loves wrestling over here in the UK. He's been very vocal about that. But 2025 is going to be interesting. Does he get inducted into the Hall of Fame WrestleMania 41, or will they wait until WrestleMania 42 until his in-ring career is finished in the WWE? We'll have to wait. But John Cena retires 2025. Money in the Bank pay-per-view delivered on a lot of things. People, I think, were a bit I think they were a little bit harsh on it, to be fair. I think it was better than what a lot of people made out. I get the issue with Drew and the briefcase, but I do agree it's a longer term booking storyline, which you have to get your head around and understand the reasons why they done it. And then it may make a bit more sense. But look, not everything's going to be, you're going to love or hate everything, are you? In wrestling, that is the beauty of it. It's the beauty of an opinion. Everyone's hard to have. I thought it was actually I thought it was a solid show. I didn't dislike anything. I understood the booking of a lot of things in there. But I do appreciate that people don't always like all of that all the time. But that is just me. But we roll around to Raw this week. Raw and SmackDown are both going to be interesting for different ways. Will Drew McIntyre be on Raw? Will Solo Sikoa be cemented as #1 contender on SmackDown? And we've only got 4 weeks until SummerSlam, one of the biggest events in WWE, which will no doubt be an amazing, amazing show. Money in the Bank for me, good show. Could have been better, could have been worse, but we now roll on to SummerSlam. But you guys can roll on to our Twitter at HTTBuckle or Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast and all other social media outlets. And we'll be back next week with all review shows, interviews, you name it. We've got it covered on this channel. So keep it locked on here, Hitting the Turnbuckle. But you have been watching the Money in the Bank Aftermath on the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. And until next time, everybody, buckle down and stay safe.